Hi, I'm Jenna, a 30-year-old mom trying to balance the joys and chaos of raising two energetic toddlers. Packing for a family trip with them feels like planning a small military operation: diapers, snacks, toys, extra outfits, everything checked twice. With our tickets booked for Los Angeles, I was eagerly looking forward to some much-needed downtime under the California sun. But more than that, I was excited for my sister, Lisa, to finally meet the youngest member of my little chaos crew. At the airport, the kids were buzzing with excitement, their tiny faces pressed against the glass as they watched the planes take off. "Look, Mommy! It's flying," my oldest squealed, tugging on my hand as I adjusted the weight of the diaper bag on my shoulder. "Yes, buddy, we're flying too," I replied with a smile, though my back was already aching under the strain of our carry-ons. Jacob had gone to get our boarding passes, but he was taking an unusually long time. When he finally returned, he wore a sheepish expression that didn't bode well. "I got us checked in, but there's something I need to tell you," he muttered, avoiding my eyes. My stomach tightened. "What is it? Don't tell me there's an issue with the tickets." No, he stammered. "You and the kids are all set in economy, but I upgraded myself to business class." His words hit me like a ton of bricks. "You did what?" I couldn't hide the disbelief in my voice as I stared at him, waiting for some explanation that might make this make sense. "I've just been feeling really stressed lately, and I thought the extra space would help me relax," he said, his voice trailing off as he saw my expression. "You're going to relax in business class while I wrangle two toddlers in economy?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and rising anger. He tried to explain that it would be better for everyone this way, but even he didn't seem convinced. "You mean better for you," I shot back, the weight of handling everything alone suddenly feeling unbearable. He opened his mouth to respond but stopped, stepping back as I gathered our things. "Come on, kids, let's go find our seats," I said with forced cheerfulness, trying to mask the turmoil inside. As we headed to the gate, Jacob followed at a distance, the gap between us growing in more ways than one. The flight was just as exhausting as I had feared. Juggling a squirmy 3-year-old and a teething 1-year-old in the cramped space of economy was a true test of patience and endurance. Every time I thought of Jacob reclining in his business class seat, sipping coffee while I wrestled a spoon away from my youngest before it could fling peas everywhere, resentment simmered. "Mommy, why can't I go see Daddy?" my eldest asked, his voice rising above the hum of the engines. "Daddy's sitting in a different part of the plane, sweetie," I explained, forcing a smile. The hours dragged on, filled with brief naps and bursts of crying from the kids, and nearly from me. Each glance toward the front of the plane made my heart sink a little deeper. When we finally touched down in Los Angeles, Jacob caught up to us, his face filled with regret. "I'm really sorry, Jenna. I thought a quiet flight might help me manage my anxiety better," he began, reaching for the bags. I pulled the suitcase away. "Anxiety or not, Jacob, you left me alone when I needed you. You chose comfort over your family," I said, my voice steady, though inside I was unraveling. As his apologies faded into the background, I guided our kids through the crowded terminal, my mind made up. At Lisa's house, we were welcomed with open arms, a warmth I hadn't realized how much I'd been missing. "You look exhausted, Jen," she said, concern in her eyes as I set down the luggage and the kids ran off to explore. I told her about the flight, my voice breaking. "He just left us, Lisa. Upgraded himself and left me to struggle with the kids." Her frown deepened. "That's not the Jacob I remember. What are you going to do?" "I don't know," I admitted, the weight of my decision sinking in. But this was the last straw. "It's not just about the flight, it's been building for a while, and I need to think about what's best for me and the kids now." Her silent nod was all the reassurance I needed. As the night fell and the kids slept peacefully, the hard conversations that lay ahead loomed large in my thoughts. During the days that followed, I slipped into a routine at Lisa's house, a routine that, for the first time, didn't include Jacob. Mornings were filled with the sound of my children's laughter as they played in the sunlit garden, a stark contrast to the tense silence that had crept into our home back with Jacob. While the kids napped or played, I spent hours talking with Lisa or sitting alone, reflecting on the patterns that had shaped my marriage. One evening, as Lisa and I sat on her porch, the California breeze offered a gentle respite from my inner turmoil. A memory surfaced. "Remember last Christmas?" I said, stirring my tea absently. Jacob decided to go on that golf trip with his friends right in the middle of our family plans. It's always been about what he needs. Lisa listened, her face a mix of sadness and frustration. "It's been happening for too long, Jenna. Maybe it's time for a change." Her words echoed in my mind long after, keeping me awake that night. By morning, I had made up my mind and called the counselor Lisa had recommended. The sessions that followed were like slowly unraveling a knot. Each conversation revealed how I had sidelined myself, always bending to Jacob's needs, his schedule, his desires. "It sounds like you're always the one making concessions, Jenna," the counselor said during one session, her voice gentle yet probing. "Yes," I admitted, surprising myself with the clarity of my own words. "And I'm tired of feeling like a secondary character in my own story." Each session brought a growing sense of empowerment, a slow reclaiming of my worth and desires. It wasn't just about Jacob upgrading his seat on that flight. It was about all the times he had put himself first, leaving me to manage the consequences. Armed with this new perspective and Lisa's unwavering support, I made a decision that had once felt unimaginable. I called Jacob, who had returned to our home, waiting for us to come back, as if things could just go back to normal. "Jacob, we need to talk," I began, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I can't do this anymore. I'm filing for divorce." There was a pause, a moment where I could almost feel his world shift. "Jenna, please," he said, his voice pleading. "Can we talk about this? Maybe go to counseling together." But I had made up my mind. "It's not just about the trip, Jacob. It's about being respected and valued, and I haven't felt that way in a long time." The conversation that followed was painful, the weight of my decision hanging heavily between us, final and unyielding. As I hung up the phone, I felt an unexpected peace wash over me. It was the right decision, not just for me, but for my children. They needed to see their mother strong, valued, and respected, something I could only truly embody if I stood up for myself and our future. That night, as I tucked my children into bed under the soft glow of their temporary room at Lisa's, a quiet resolve settled within me. Tomorrow would bring challenges, no doubt, but for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to face them, knowing I was finally on the path I needed to be. Life as a single mom wasn't without its hurdles. But each day, as I woke up in my own space, a home slowly transforming into a sanctuary for my children and me, with each morning that began early, greeted by the sound of little feet padding across the floor and the day's first calls for cereal and cartoons, I felt a surge of strength pushing me forward. Our new routines, breakfast, playtime, bedtime stories, became rituals we shaped together, filling our days with small joys and shared responsibilities. Co-parenting with Jacob brought its own set of challenges, a delicate dance of boundaries and compromise that often tested my resolve. The first few exchanges were stiff, thick with unspoken regrets and what-ifs. But as the weeks turned into months, a structure started to form, one that allowed our children to love both of us without feeling caught in the middle. "Can I bring this to Daddy's house?" my eldest would ask, holding up a toy or a book. "Of course," I'd reply, my heart squeezing with the bittersweet reality of our new normal. It was important to me that they felt connected to both of us, despite the distance and the changes in our family. Jacob and I found a way to communicate that focused entirely on the well-being of our kids. We set up regular meetings to discuss everything, from school events to health concerns. There should be consistency in the routines between both homes, I proposed during one of our discussions, and to my relief, Jacob agreed. Yes, let's keep things as stable as we can for them, he said, showing that he too was learning to put our children's needs ahead of our past conflict. Looking back on my journey, from the painful unraveling of my marriage to the tentative steps toward a new life, I'm amazed at how far I've come. The decision to end my marriage had been weighed down by fear of judgment, fear of failing on my own. Yet, here I was, not just surviving but thriving. My days were mine to design, filled with laughter, love, and yes, the occasional tears, but most importantly, they were authentically mine. I knew there would be more challenges ahead, more hurdles to overcome, but I also knew that within me was a reservoir of strength that had been tested and found true. I was more than a wife, more than a mother, I was Jenna, and I was enough. As I tucked my children into bed, their sleepy faces glowing softly under the warmth of their nightlight, I felt a profound sense of peace. "Good night, my loves," I whispered, lingering in the doorway as a soft smile curved my lips. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was no longer afraid. With each new day, I was building a life not just for my children, but for myself, a life filled with purpose, respect, and joy. And no matter what lay ahead, I knew we would face it together, as a family, reshaped, but unbroken, strong in the face of change and hopeful for the future.